So, should Eddie Izzard be on an all-women shortlist to become an MP? Dominique?
Well, the answer is emphatically no, and Eddie Izzard isn't a woman. Eddie Izzard is a man. His pronouns are he, him, based upon what you can clearly see. I'm sort of sick of playing...
How much have you seen?
Well...
I've only seen his comedy.
Well, you can see him, and you know that is it.
Is that not a little harsh, though, given that if somebody decides to identify as female, then you normally respect the fact that they become she?
But it's a contradiction now. You, in your what you've just said, you've referred to Eddie Izzard as a she. So if you're referring to Eddie Izzard as a she, well, you're then endorsing that he is a woman.
He's not saying...
So then, forward from that, he can obviously join an all-woman shortlist. But what I'm saying is actually ideologically consistent, because Eddie Izzard is a man. So as a man, of course he shouldn't be part of an all-women's shortlist. That's a man.
Well, I wonder whether there's a difference, because I'm against somebody that's a biological male that identifies as female participating in women's sport or going into a female-only area. But, I mean, as long as I can remember, if somebody is, says to me, look, I used to be Bob and I'm now Bernadette, out of courtesy, you go, OK, you're Bernadette.
But the thing...
It's not the same as saying that person is a woman.
The thing that reveals this sort of hypocrisy that runs deep within this whole gender ideology is that it's about ambiguity. So if you are a certain gender, but this is ambiguous, so you might be biologically a man, but I can see you look like a woman, you're making an effort to actually present as a woman, then I could be swayed and I could use the pronouns that person wants me to use. I'm not an evil person. But if you look like Eddie Izzard, you are clearly a man, putting on lipstick and wearing a dress does not make you a woman, then I'm sorry to say I'm not going to use those pronouns, because I'm then lying to myself, I'm lying to what I can see, and I think it's dangerous that people are being brainwashed into doing this and of denying reality, really.
Amy, the world's gone mad. Somebody called Eddie Izzard, born biological male, goes onto an all-women shortlist for the Labour Party.
What about Eddie from Absolutely Fabulous? That's a woman.
Although she's got, I think, the full reproductive organs of a woman, doesn't she?
Women, Eddie...
She's rocking the ovaries.
So Labour aren't actually running all-female shortlists anymore. So this is just an opportunity for Rosie Duffield to be... To bring up the trans debate that she so likes to, in an effort to stir up a bit of bigotry.
No, because there are reports that
in her favour.
They could allow trans women to be on all women shortlists.
But Labour since March have said they aren't doing all female shortlists anymore.
I think the reason
so this is kind of a non-story. However, in the case of Eddie Izzard, I know it's a difficult one to get your head around, but she is gender fluid and has requested to be referred to as with she, her pronouns, but she has said, if you say he, him, not that bothered, and it's not worth fighting over.
Yeah, because that's the real key thing. He can do that, but for someone that looks like a woman, we don't have that privilege to say, you can call me whatever you like, because the reality is, that's a man.
I think you're in your rights to make a request.
It goes deeper than that. Do you believe that women have a different experience to men? That's the question here. And the Labour Party have got themselves in a real bind, because they've said in the past we're going to have all women shortlist because women have a tougher time. If you then have someone who's lived as a man who can get onto that list, you've discounted all of your beliefs.
I think the point is the list doesn't exist.
But the list could exist, as said by the Labour Party. The reason why Eddie shouldn't be on that list, because Eddie hasn't lived as a woman. If you believe that women have a different path in life and it's more difficult for them, a guy who's then become a woman 2-3 years ago has not grown up. He never went through all the issues that girls have, the sexism, the misogyny, the periods, the way that boys interact. He never went through all of that, so he simply is not a woman. There's more to the gender of a woman than just saying I am a woman. There's a lived experience. There's a lived experience of a woman which he has not had and will never have. It's as simple as that. He is a man in this context, and he certainly is not a woman. And the deeper thing is, this is disrespectful to women, Because if you're a woman and you're sitting in your house now thinking, well, I'm the one who has to bear children, I'm the one who does all the housework, despite the fact that I also work as well, which is many women's lived experience. Eddie Izzard hasn't had that, so he shouldn't be able to say
But
something.
what bearing does this have on her ability in politics?
It's got nothing to do.
And that's really what this is about.
No, it's not.
So
it's got nothing to do with politics.
where have you
It's
got-
got to be about...
Eddie Izzard wants to run for an MP in Sheffield.
And push
And-
another
and
woman
push-
off the list.
That's
But
what
being an MP isn't completely reliant on being a woman. This is kind of irrelevant. What Eddie Izzard identifies as has no bearing on him running her...
But hold on.
It should be part of an all-women shortlist.
But then if it has no bearing...
There is no all-women's shortlist. This
There
is
might
about...
be one,
might
that's
be
why
one.
Rosie
That's a-
Duffield has said
that.
this.
No, Rosie
And the
Duffield
point
has
is,
said
It hasn't been ruled out.
Rosie Duffield has said this to draw the attention to the fact that Eddie Izzard lives in a trans experience, rather than anything to do. Also, it would be pretty.
It's also complicated with Eddie Izzard because sometimes
definitely is.
Eddie Izzard says, I want to be he, him, and sometimes I want to be she, her.
It's fluid.
It's a
No,
bit fluid.
because it's
Although, is it,
rubbish.
Sean, is it not a little
rubbish.
harsh or a little disrespectful on Eddie Izzard to not respect Eddie Izzard's desire to be referred to in a female pronoun?
He could be referred to any way he likes. This is much...
But you're not going to call Eddie she.
I'll call him
Well, I
she.
can call
It makes-
Eddie what I want.
It makes no difference to me. The point I want...
I agree you can, but is it a little disrespectful?
I'll call... If he wants to be called she, I'll call him Lion if he wants to be called Lion. The point is this disrespects the idea that women have a different path through life. That's the point here. And if he can then say, remember, he was born a boy, lived as a boy, had all the advantages as people see as a boy, and then at the end he can swap when somebody's trying to help out women, it is wrong.
OK, here's one for you, Amy. You're a best-selling author. So imagine if you were in competition for Female Author of the Year and you were beaten by a trans woman that spent their whole lived experience as a bloke.
I sincerely do not care, and I truly think I know that a trans woman is a woman.
But a bloke wins a top woman's award.
I think
What about the woman that was
Oh,
nominated, Time magazine, the trans woman nominated as one of Time magazine's Women of the Year? Or in New Zealand, when a trans athlete was nominated Athlete of the Year?
It's not fair.
Calling a trans woman a bloke is incredibly offensive.
All right, Amy,
It's not about
can I
that.
just ask you a question?
Well, it is about
If-
that.
if
And
it
also,
were- if
their
it
very
were-
numbers make it pretty certain
Well, Amy,
that scenario is
it-
really unlikely to happen.
If it were that a biological male consistently started winning Woman of the Year, like what?
But this
5 years
is
in a row,
just
would
impossible.
that be a problem?
This is an impossible scenario.
No,
It's
just-
based
it's
on
not.
the sheer
And
numbers.
Wimbledon every
Caitlyn Jenner-
summer.
The numbers of people that you're talking
Caitlyn
about.
Jenner, hold on. Caitlyn Jenner won Woman of the Year, and I was on the train when I was reading it, and a lady was speaking to me, and she said to me, "How can he be Woman of the Year? He can't be a better woman than me. I've been a woman longer than he has. He's been a woman for 4 years." She said, "I've been a woman for nearly 50. How did he win?" The point is, if you think men have an advantage, and everybody says they do, then that advantage is transferred to a higher state when they can become a woman and negate any help with trying
If you
to
talk
place
about
a woman.
advantage and disadvantage, trans people are at a massive disadvantage in every area of life throughout their lives. Yes, their experience isn't exactly the same as a biological woman, but nor is it the same as a biological man.
Okay.
They have a unique
And that's
experience.
true.
Well, then
Comes
maybe
with its own set of challenges.
have an all-trans shortlist then.
Well, that'd be pretty hard to
Amy's
muster
correct,
up, wouldn't it?
If
Can you
Amy's,
find
if
that?
Amy's
Those are
correct,
disgraces.
if Amy's correct, let's assume Amy's correct. She's right. Trans men and women have had a very tough goings on. You don't help them by disadvantaging women. That isn't fair. That doesn't. That omission of helping women just gives the largest single group of people on the planet. Most people on this planet are women. What you've then said to them, we're going to take the welfare of a small group of people over all of you. Simply not.
I think the fact you said a large group of people has just completely defied your whole argument. There's enough women to be completely not threatened by a tiny minority of trans
then
people.
why do we have women's? Why do we have separate women's sport? Why do you have women's school? Why are we trying to help women?
No,
Absolutely.
what I'm saying is women aren't a threat from a tiny minority of trans women.
Apart from those swimmers in the Olympics
These are very small
who couldn't
boxers.
beat Leah Thomas, who smashed every record because Leah's a biological male that scooped all the top awards and broke every record.
Well, what about the Women's World Cup? How many trans women were in our women's football team? Oh, yeah, none, because there's not many of them.
Yes, well, that could come, and that would be another storm that's brewing. But look